This podcast is made possible by the generosity of listeners and viewers like you. Kindly consider a contribution through Patreon or PayPal. Links are in the details box. Any amount is appreciated. And follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The handle, the Beirut Banyan. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And to stay updated with video releases, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. I'm Rani Shatar, and this is the Beirut Banyan. Whenever I walk the Green Line in this city, whenever I go from Mathaf all the way to the sea, which is effectively the Green Line of Beirut, I make it a point to stop in Beit Beirut. And I've been doing this since I was a kid. Since before Beit Beirut was Beit Beirut. It was the Barakat building, Al Khlat Delphine. And long ago, I got to meet Muna al-Halla, who for me is still one of the best storytellers in the city, maybe the best one. She fought against the municipality, she fought against, I think, her friends, she probably fights against herself on a daily basis. But this is why the city has something very unique. A wonderful venue for not just storytelling, not just Civil War history, but civic involvement, civic education, which I think is why we're here, trying to get Lebanese citizens to better understand this entire tragedy and also to reflect on previous prosperity. There's no better place to do this than Beit Beirut. And I'm very lucky I'm getting to do this with both of you because we just met, I think 10 days ago or so, the opening of Allo Beirut. Tala saved my life.
It's true.
She hid me from people that wanted to talk to me, and she did it effectively. And Tala's quite vicious when she wants that done, and I was really happy to be next to her. I think I saved you sometimes too from other people, so it was mutual defense. Daphne, I think I know about you. I've never met you, I think, other than maybe a few seconds in Beit Beirut. But you come highly recommended from friends and from Hamad Tame, who's become a very good friend. I think this is the kind of venue that Lebanese should visit, and sometimes classrooms should be forced to go there. It's a remarkable unlayering of the city's past. With or without AC, it's a treat. With or without AC. And I mean that because I was sweating my way through happiness. And that's when I met you guys, drenched with sweat. So, the built-in audience for the podcast, they know about Beit Beirut. They know about Muna al-Halla. They know about many urban planning activists. But I don't think they would know you, personally. So if I could start with you, Tala, just explain yourself to an audience that knows the building, that knows the passion behind this kind of project, but doesn't necessarily know what you're doing and your direct involvement.
Well, let me start. I'm thinking how to start this. Let me start from Delphine, from how I met Delphine. Maybe that could be interesting.
Yeah.
And how we came about this project and how I was involved. Because the project it's been 10, 15 years since Delphine was working on this. So I'm kind of new to this project. Although I did other stuff, but for this project, I'm considered new.
Sorry, did you say 10, 15 years?
Yeah. She will explain
great.
more about
I didn't know it's that long. Wow.
Yes. So...
Screw you, Tala. Let's go to Daphne. No, I'm joking. Go ahead. Keep going.
Great. So you saw now you understand why I want Delphine with me.
Absolutely.
Yes. Of course. So let me tell you how I met Delphine. So we had a common friend, and she was, talking to me passionately about this project that she had, the exhibition, Prosper Gepara, and I was like, who? Who is that person? Like, I had no idea who is that person. I think, don't have an idea. I have a better idea. And she was like, I'm doing this project in Beit Beirut. It's called Allo Beirut. It's interesting. A lot of challenges are going on. So let's see how we can partner together. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, of course, partners, projects, I'm into that, definitely. And I didn't know back then what it was very, like, in details. And then later on we spoke about it, and then I realized that it really connects very much to the mission of what I'm doing. So back in 2013, I founded the Menila, a small NGO working on citizenship education and civic education in Lebanon with young people. And really the mission of Menila is to really empower and foster a sense of social responsibility through our youth and through everyone living here in Lebanon. And it started small, it is still small. So when she told me about Allo Beirut, I'm like, this exhibition is about connecting citizens and residents in Lebanon, not only to their history, but also to their present and their future. And I thought, wow, that's it. I really want to work on this with Delphine. So this is how it all started.
And this is in that 10 to 15 year period that you kind of met, or is it more recent?
It's more recent, it's like 2 years ago.
Wow.
It was 1 year ago, and it was on 4th August during the commemoration.
Oh my gosh, it's so true.
So because we have this common friend, and we met this day, and after we had a drink, and you talked about what you was doing, and about citizenship, and about activism.
So true.
Yeah.
You know, I should know this because I thought it was an exaggeration. I saw the Allo Beirut poster, and it does say 10 to 12 years ago, an idea was born. I did not know that that's really 10 to 12 years. I thought that was just people met by... I didn't take it seriously. So may I ask you, Daphne, what is the... I'm going to be a bit tricky here. What is the delay in getting something like that started?
Because let's say that the project changed a lot, and actually the story started in 2010 at Beit Beirut. It's like it will take the same way of what the beginning of your story.
Yeah.
My grandmother lived on the Rue Monod, and this building, the Beit Barakat, l'immeuble jaune, was a very strange building for me because I'm French from my father and Lebanese from my mother. So each time when we visited my grandmother, there was this building so beautiful, but it also very, I know, it's a symbol of the war, kind of, yeah.
That's before Beit Beirut was officially opened.
Yeah, before its rehabilitation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But when I come back in Lebanon in 2010, I was a journalist. Actually, I wanted to become journalist, so I was in a master at the Lebanese University. And I wanted to work with L'Hebdo magazine. And I remember that this building, and one of my friends who worked at La Mairie de Paris told me, like, you know, this building will become a museum. So like, it's interesting to go inside, but I didn't know what I would find. And this was the first, actually, I asked L'Hebdo magazine, can I work with you? I said, let's find subject of investigation, because we just don't need the normal journalists, we need the journalists for investigation.
Oh, so is that why it's both artists and journalists combined?
No, it will come later.
Oh, that's unrelated. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is a few steps.
Yeah.
But so I proposed Beit Beirut. I was like, yeah, there is a place that would become a museum. It would be interesting. I can go inside. It was kind of a bit forbidden at this period to go in. And it's where I met Mona Halak,
Okay.
as you. I mean, and it was
Yeah.
like it was really a discovery. When I interviewed her, it was for 3 hours, and I was listening to this woman. I was like, okay, I love her. She was like a beautiful activist, because from my side, my history with Lebanon, everybody was telling me, Delphine, you cannot change Lebanon. It's like that. It's like that. And Mona Halak was telling me the opposite. That actually her family and friend was telling her, Mona, you are losing 15 years of your life. It's like that. And she was like, no, it's not like that. And she fought so much, so hard. So, and it's kind of thanks to her that, and of course she's co-director also.
Right.
But it's still on my mind that we need to do something with Beit Beirut, because someone fought for 20 years, and we need to push for that, because it's crazy.
So this is something that struck me as quite refreshing, that it's not a Civil War exhibition, or it's not a Civil War focused exhibition. It's really about Beirut as it stands on its own, which I thought is good, because these kinds of exhibits tend to have a very negative, sad tragedy in the background, and I didn't feel that one bit walking through Allo Beirut. Actually, was a bit inspired at times. And even these unique kind of displays where you can recreate downtown, or even, I mean, I think it was Muhammad Talma's exhibit that there's a camera filming you changing the city, and There's posters, there's newspapers, there's collective memory with a positive angle, not so negative. And I'm wondering, is that fair to describe it this way? Or am I being a little too sort of romantic? Because I did not feel sadness in the room. I felt joy, which I thought was quite good for Beit Beirut.
The room, you mean on the room of downtown, or you mean in the exhibition?
You know, maybe I'm so jaded now that when things are negative, they have to be very negative to feel that way. But I felt some joy, and in a lost city. And I can ask both of you, maybe Tala, if that's an intentional thing, or am I sort of seeing it a bit?
I cannot answer for the exhibition part. I will let Delphine answer, but I can relate to what you felt because, as well, I was not part of the second phase, which is the production phase of the exhibition. So I came in and I felt the same experience as anyone coming in the exhibition. So
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was expecting. So as you said, I mean, it is tricky. The exhibition is not about trying to depict the reality or the history or what really happened, because
Yeah.
some people were expecting that, and we had someone come like 2 days ago and he was like, but this is not what happened, this is not the reality.
But I think he didn't actually listen to all the audio because it's what happened. Everything is based on fact, at least. I know. So it happened, but it's not the representation of, this is it. This is the history of Lebanon. No, it's
Exactly. It's one.
sorry.
But if I can interject, I'm sorry to do this, but it's even the going from one room to the other is fun. It's like a maze rather than a tragedy. And I maybe I'm sounding a bit silly saying this, but I actually really enjoyed it.
But maybe let's finish, and
Yeah,
I will
sure,
answer.
I felt also very positive because I think we were not expecting that from Beit Beirut, because we already come in with not a negative expectation, but somehow like, what is this outcome? I mean, what is it about Allo Beirut? What is it about the history? Like, we already, history is also a boring topic. Don't forget that. History is something we never really learned here in Lebanon. We missed. So coming here and facing this, as you said, amazing rooms, the lighting, the decor, everything, it kind of reflects some positivity, and that's really interesting. And just to add one more thing, going from one room to another and discovering Beirut before the war and after the war, I honestly didn't feel a lot of change between this transition.
Right. Yeah.
And I think this was the purpose of the exhibition, because we really are living the same stories again and again. And I will let Delphine talk more about this. But I didn't feel this change. I felt it also that it's not only the same story, but it's also the same setting, the same ambiance, the same. It was set as a journey, but it's kind of the same journey till today.
I found it as the city speaking for itself, rather than us trying to sort of feel bad for it. And maybe you can interject here. Is that something that's ingrained in this exhibit?
Yeah, definitely. And we wanted to have a dialogue with Beirut. So a lot
Okay,
of time
yeah.
it's like, like for me, Beirut is a person. So it's like we're talking with her and she answers
Yeah.
as she can with what we find as archives.
Right.
But just for the civil war, so it was a choice not to talk about the civil war directly. We have many comments about that before on the conceptual phase, why you don't want to talk. And actually, Beit Beirut is for me like the...
I think it's the
again,
best decision made.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to know that was a deliberate decision. I
Yeah.
felt it and I wasn't sure. But it seems like, that's...
Because the civil war is the building anyway. So
Yeah,
it's like, for
exactly.
example, specifically on the Beirut of today part, and we all have the civil war. I mean, the one who lived, not me. I'm saying we, but the ghost of the civil war. When you take a decision, a political decision or a choice, it's like, oh, but it will come back. The war will come back. And so for us, Beit Beirut was this ghost.
Yeah.
Whatever you walk, you move and you see the loopholes and everything. Then it's good that you feel it's happy on the second part, because we were super.
Sorry, second part meaning the second...
It's the past.
second... Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
First part is Beirut of today, kind of a statement, and,
Right.
and then we go to the past to see the roots of our issues, or to see if we can find the roots of our issue. But we was afraid that it would be super depressive, actually, because this is what you just said, and it's repetition. So you are in the 60s and you are listening to the issue we still have today. And sometime in some room you will find that the ideas was more progressist than today. So it's like, oh no. But maybe that with the, it's good. It's like it's a balance with the format of the exhibition, immersive, interactive, that bring you, and you're also an actor
Yeah.
as visitors.
That's how I felt, that I actually was a participant in a stage production.
That's great, because it was one of the mission.
I've quietly gone back without really wanting to make a fuss or bring anybody with me. I've just gone back. And I think I could keep going. I think, actually, had I had time, I would have gone today. And I know that your NGO, Tala, is called Min Ila.
Yeah.
Is that right? It's almost like a perfect match for this exhibit, because it's really Beirut before and after. It's to and from. I mean, I think it all makes sense. And your focus is on youth sort of engagement.
Yes.
I did not notice I'll say it differently. I think it was designed well for all generations and also accessible for the youth. And I want to maybe go into that sort of direction. I appreciate the way you're describing that things haven't changed much, and that this is a building that in a way is preserving time, it's locking time, and the exhibit does that well. It shows a city that hasn't really moved on. The youth today, I think, are more interested in history than ever. And it's from intuitive sort of moments. It could be literally historians making a name for themselves on social media. And the October 17th protest, I think, is a lot of that. It's Lebanese, but young Lebanese, barging into old buildings, trying to reclaim something they lost. Beit Beirut is not that, but there's other buildings that had that experience. So could you maybe share with anyone that's trying to understand how this can actually help the youth better appreciate, or maybe even reclaim their history? Because I think this is an uphill battle. For any NGO, in particular one that you started, I can imagine this is an endless mission.
Extremely interesting topic, but I think that youth today are not very much interested in history. They're interested in themselves first. I will tell you why. Because we're losing.
That's the best
not
line.
only,
I'm going to steal that line from you. It's a good line.
we're not only. I mean, we're. Okay, how to put that? We have lost our history, and we are losing our youth. How? Because today, my friends, Delphine's friends, even the older generation, when we started the exhibition, I told them, yeah, you know, Beit Beirut, and like, what? What is Beit Beirut? I know Beit Beirut because I was in UAG at the university. So I know the building somehow. I don't know a lot about the building myself. And all my friends today, they're like, what is that Beit Beirut? We don't know the history of Beit Beirut. We don't even know Beit Beirut. And even in the Saura, even in the places we went in and they don't know what are those places.
Yeah.
Because we never learn what are those places. And I will give you a very specific example from and I'm considered someone who knows maybe 5% of the history of Lebanon. When I went to Muhammad Ta'me exhibit and the installation, and you have the map of Beit Beirut, of Beirut, and you have fixed buildings, and then you can move other things.
I tried moving the Sarai, he wouldn't let me.
but wait, I
wanted to take it.
I was looking at the fixed things, and some of them I really couldn't locate them. I couldn't. I'm like, what is that? Where is that? It was difficult for me at the beginning to locate the parliament and the municipality. I think there was, and it was difficult for me because visually, it's not easy. Not everyone is aware about Beirut. This is why most of our programs in Menila is getting youth outside Beirut in the rural community, in the rural area, to come and visit. You know that we've worked with young people who never visited Beirut in their lives. They don't know what is Beirut. So this is huge.
Yeah.
So this project not only brings young people in and and let them understand their history, let them understand the building, what is the building. But also it lets them engage and question a lot of things that even if you go to each installation today in the exhibition, you will have questions. You will have more questions than answers. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's you see, it's interesting. Talking about it makes me want to go back. I think there's a lot of layers to this exhibit.
Most people came 2 and 3 times to the exhibition, and we
Right.
were surprised, and we were like, "Why are you coming back?" And they're like, "We want to understand more, and we want to get immersed in
Yes.
each installation." It takes time. It takes really time, and that's amazing that people are coming back. It's really impressive.
And selfishly, I like it when it's not so crowded. So it's actually a little more relaxed. You can take.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you need to move. But I like that you said the youth are into themselves.
Yes.
That is a very sad reality, and Beirut in the background, but you're focusing on trying to change that, or at least trying to.
Yeah.
The way you're saying it's almost like let the youth discover in a more maybe engaging way, rather than a boring history class that perhaps all of us have experienced. But you yourself didn't know what Beit Beirut was, and you're studying just down the street. Now, where's the failure there? Is it a matter of, is this literally just education and failure of education? Or is this genuine disinterest, meaning that you have to actually do it on your own? Because I naturally found my way into Beit Beirut many times. No one ever had to show me the direction. I stumbled in, and I think I found myself wanting to do that over and over. Does that just go back to a state that needs to better adopt history into its curriculum, or is this something that goes beyond that?
It's not only history, it's civic education.
Civic
Min
education.
Ila started the whole idea of why we started this. We questioned something very important back in 2013. We said, okay, there is an issue with young people in Lebanon. How to tackle it? Is it women empowerment? Is it climate change? Is it recycling and environment? What is it? Back in 2013 with a friend. And I told him, but it's everything. We want to work on women education, empowerment. We want to work on climate change. We want to work on this, but how to start? And then we discovered and we thought that the only link between all of these causes and adaya in Arabic is to empower young people to be able to care more about the adaya or the causes.
When you say
So-
empower, does that mean just giving them tools?
Okay, empower has different meanings. So the first meaning is identity.
Okay.
They need to understand themselves, what they need, what they want, who they are. It's very important. You can't give a tool to someone who is already lost.
Yeah.
So the first thing we wanted to do, we're jumping from a subject to another, but let me continue the other
Sure, of
idea.
course. That's why we have editing.
So,
No.
so back in 2013,
Yeah.
we said we want to work on different causes. What is the cause that could link all of these? The idea was if we work on civic education, تربية المدنية, we could empower young people to be able to understand the causes and to fight for them. So civic education was our first choice, and we wanted to change the curriculum with the Ministry of Education. This is how it all started.
Okay, so there is a link to the Minister of Education here.
Of course,
Yeah, okay,
of course.
I see.
So we wanted to change the book. You remember the
Yeah.
book of 20 pages?
Yes.
That is. So we're like, if we can have access to thousands of young students from schools, through schools,
I see.
through this 1 hour of civic education in schools. You remember every week we had 1 hour
Yeah.
of تربية مدنية.
And it was not fun.
Exactly. So if we could change and create an interactive tool, this was the whole idea,
Okay.
and increase volunteering, do community service through civic education, we will change the world and we will change Lebanon.
I see, and within that, you find yourself partnering up with Allo Beirut. But that's
yes.
kind of it's a
So-
marriage of, yeah.
Exactly. So through the years, also we changed a lot because we discovered that we want to work on citizenship education and not civic education, and what is the difference between them. It's a bit, I didn't study education, so we worked with experts on that. But civic education is about, rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
حقوق وواجبات.
Yeah.
Citizenship education is more. It's about human rights. It's about understanding the context. It's all of that. So we started working on that, and we couldn't change the curriculum. We tried. We fought for it. We couldn't. So we started working outside the curriculum.
Oh, I
what we
see.
call non-formal education.
Right.
And we started working from the Bekaa to the north, to the Jnoub, to Beirut, to every region in Lebanon. And here we discovered that the main problem is youth disengagement.
You know, it's interesting when you're describing your own journey the last decade or so. I can imagine Munna al-Halla, because she's an architect, urban planner by training, and she's been focusing all her effort on institutions outside of education. But I think of Beit Beirut as an educational tool more than anything.
Of the project, not even the idea, but everything started in 2010 when I entered in Le Cave du Roi, because I had a chronicle about places of memory in Beirut. So I entered this nightclub in Excelsior Hotel, and we find so many archives, papers, and negatives. So I just wrote an article about the place, but I came back a lot with friends, and one of them was photographer. And with the negatives, he did a beautiful series named Beirut 75-15, 75-15, that is actually on the exhibition. And it's a collage between the picture he took about Beirut during 3 years and the negatives we find in the Cave du Roi. When he showed me this series, I was like, okay, now we can do something between journalism and art. There was something interesting that, because there was this idea with archives, what you want to do with the general public, you cannot do anything. It will be boring. Even for myself, I know to use archives behind glasses, it's not very interactive. So when you add this art aspect, it brings something new. So with him, we had this idea in 2015 to make an exhibition, but it was only about the Cave du Roi.
Oh, it was still just that?
Yeah, it's about what we find in situ.
Yeah. Okay.
Then so I started an investigation about Prosper Guépara, the owners of the place. I met the family, chouette. And for the archives also, it was quite complicated to access all the archives. And strangely, in 2019, when the revolution started, I had access to all his archives, kind of. And a huge part of his archives. And when I discovered all of them, I was like, okay. He wrote that in 1960, and it's what we're experiencing today on the street.
That made you want to go from one location to the whole city? Is that the journey from...
So we chose actually the subject he deal with. Like he talked about downtown Beirut, how he wanted to rehabilitate it from the 90s. He talked a lot about monetary reforms. So everything that he thought, we create a room. Like it's our journalistic angle on the project.
I see.
There is always a reason why.
Right. And sorry, this is 2015. So that's 7 years ago. It kind of becomes, you can imagine it coming together.
In 2015, it was just about Le Cave du Roi.
Oh, okay, okay.
Then I made this investigation. I found that he had so many projects about Lebanon, that he thought like Lebanon as one nation from the south to the north, and he wanted to develop it as one nation. That is quite new.
Yeah.
I mean, not new, but nice, let's say. And what was very interesting with him is like the symbol of the Dolce Vita, the Cave du Roi, But in the same time, he was saying like, okay, in the 60s there is no political will, there is no enough reforms, and that was quite new and refreshing to have the two sides of it. The side nice, like the Dolce Vita, that is true, Cave du Roi, Palm Beach, Kit Kat, even it was also from his family, and the side no reforms and no social policies. public policies, downtown, the rehabilitation, and so yeah, in 2019 during the revolution.
Oh, so it
The
does-
project took another way.
I see. So the protest did
Change.
evolve it
Yeah.
quickly. Okay.
And then the explosion as well. So it was, we had it in mind, and then it like we evolved with the situation of Lebanon.
Tell me if I'm wrong. There's nothing about the blast in the exhibit.
Uh,
There's
no,
nothing specifically about the blast.
no.
Okay.
One thing.
Yeah, one thing, the last one, the last room.
Ah, no.
No,
One tiny, tiny detail about the exhibit that has something about the explosion
what? From our side or from the artist side?
from the artist's side.
Kabrit?
No, the clock.
Oh,
of
yeah.
course. Yes.
Sorry, I even forgot what we
Yeah.
put.
Well, see, this is why you need to go back again and
I need
again
to.
and again.
I need to come back.
I've seen that clock, and yes, of course.
Yeah, we put it actually the first room. It's a kitchen and it's a kind of a presentation room on the Beirut of today. And we wanted it every detail of this room has a link to Beirut of today. So of course we wanted to pay tribute and to remember, and also with the clock that stopped at 6:07.
607. Yeah.
And the last room, and you leave the exhibition with a picture of the port, but it's in 1976.
Right.
But it's definitely a clown day to the explosion.
Right.
That it's repeat again and again.
I also think of something else all the time, and maybe Daphne, I can ask you this. Did I say Daphne? Delphine. I said Daphne. Sorry about that. Delphine. This is a building that's also suggesting that something terrible happened, which is the topic not explored in the exhibit. It speaks for itself, but the Civil War is that one issue that has sort of frozen Lebanon, the way I see it. And it's also frozen history too. And you mentioned the 20 pages or so, or let's say the inability to properly teach history the way it should be taught. I mean, you're lucky if it even reaches 1970. It often falls flat in the 50s. Yeah. So that kind of reality, and then all the effort being done. I don't know if there's any real success here unless there's a national healing process when it comes to the Civil War. And that's a maybe thing that will never happen in our lifetime. But do you see it that way? Is that being maybe too blunt? Because I don't see any real progress being made unless that happens.
About the Civil War, you mean?
Yeah.
What's something that was related to Beit Beirut, and some of our team are journalists. It was the first time they entered Beit Beirut, so the first time they actually see something from the Civil War. And some of them cry inside, and some of them even told me, Delphine, I know that the Civil War happened because I was there, but now that I saw the loopholes, I understood it happened.
The roof,
The loopholes, the meurtrières,
the sniper.
the snipers.
Yes,
loopholes,
right. Yeah.
And I was quite surprised because we all made huge studies. We, of course, know that the Civil War happened, but the fact that they saw it at Beit Beirut, it was something happened in them.
Yeah.
I was like, shit. I mean, in a way,
Yeah.
because if if this sort of person like have this sort of reaction, the one that didn't made studies and go to university and everything, what the level of the understanding of the Civil War? Yeah. I think it's it's interesting what you say, because you say it freezed in the same time. So it's a focus, and in the same time, it's like we don't understand anything, and
Yeah.
there's many initiatives, but in the same time there is nothing that make us understand better. And
Yeah, but there's something that gets stuck in the middle. Every initiative tries to tackle this, and then there's not really any fundamental change. But people keep trying.
but maybe it's the audience. I think what you said about history, and I think it's a way also to talk to people. If it is books, or if it is, for example, not related to Civil War, but for us, the archives, we say that, okay, if we just put archives behind glasses, it won't have the same impact that the exhibition today. So we need to
Right.
find a way to really have interest from people, the kids or the normal people, like just to talk about it. So maybe we'll have an event about dealing with the past, if you want to talk more about it.
But I mean, it's okay. So there's this decade-long effort in creating this exhibit, and the frustration of youth and being selfish, or not, or disinterest. But that's not even part of. I mean, that's small part of the problem, that the Lebanese state continues to devolve over time. So even trying to get the Ministry of Education to do something today, I can imagine it's almost impossible, if not impossible. So is it fair to say that these are just initiatives that never reach their goal?
No, it's not fair. I
not
think,
fair.
I mean, I don't know. It's complicated because when you have an initiative, you put everything, and then we know all the initiatives that are existed today about the civil war.
Yeah.
I think that they are doing their best.
Yes, they're doing their best.
And
yeah.
then after what you're saying, that also politically, I know we are not allowed to really talk about memory. I know in the beginning for Beit Beirut in 2014 or 2012, when you were saying it will be a museum about memory.
Yeah.
The municipality was like, no, it's not about memory, don't talk about that. So each time you are talking about the civil war, and personally I never worked about the civil war, but there is kind of it's forbidden. It's exactly that what we didn't have for the 60s, because for the 60s it's kind of cool, you can go.
Yeah.
But the civil war, there is something like, no, we cannot really, and we have researchers that totally work about that, but you have kind of limit from the institution as well.
You know, maybe I'm not asking it the right way, and I'll try to do a better job with you, Tala, because this could be my limitation. No, actually, I feel something that is always blocking these initiatives. Your frustration and trying to work through an NGO that you set up. You have a very clear mission, and it's all about, I mean, getting Lebanese outside of Beirut to get more involved and even bring them in. That's something that's, I don't know anyone else trying to do this in a youth empowering way, but I can still imagine that these are hurdles beyond our control.
No, definitely. It's a fight for every single person who wants to do something. For Delphine now, it was Allo Beirut for 10 years. For Mona, it was the building.
Yeah.
For me, it's maybe engaging young people to start the fight together, to change, to do social change. This is
Yeah.
the whole idea. We want to empower youth to do what? To create change. And this is not easy. And this is why it's also a journey. And someone asked me one day, like, what is exactly that you're doing? It's also difficult because citizenship education is a concept that is fluid, it's blurry. Even the big experts are like, what is it exactly? So I try to put it as a journey, as a 4-step journey, how to become an active citizen. Because people are citizens, but they are not active. They don't care, that they are disengaged, disinterested in what's happening around them. Because they have so many problems. I mean, they can't eat, they can't go to university, they have a lot of issues. So the 4 steps journey is what? So the whole idea is bringing young people first to be aware about their rights and their responsibilities. It starts with awareness. Okay, I can do that, I can vote, I need to give back to my community, I need to be aware about what's happening around me. Okay, I'm aware. This is the first step. The second step is what? It's feeling concerned. Okay, there is an issue about racism. There is an issue, let's say, about not being able to give citizenship to your daughter if you're a woman. There are these issues, but I need to feel concerned.
Yeah.
So how to do that? It's so difficult. So this is the next step.
But is the ultimate hurdle not being able to fully address what happened to Lebanon?
Yeah.
Um,
The reconciliation, you mean?
Things that should have happened decades ago that are left hanging,
Yes.
but all these good initiatives that are still trying to combat that.
Okay, I will answer this now. So when we started working and we wanted to engage young people in education and in civic education and volunteering and everything, and as soon as I started working on this in 2013, as Delphine said, everyone was, Tala, what are you doing? This will never change. Young people, Lebanon will not change. You are wasting your time. It's been 10 years today. And I feel that, yes, there are issues that are pending. It's our job. It's our job as citizens to bring them back on the table and to fight for them. What are you doing, Roni, here in this podcast? You are bringing also you are highlighting different people doing different things. This is what your part of your mission in your life. Delphine's part is different, my part is different. So we have to fight to bring them back.
We're the post-war generation. And we both, the three of us, experienced the early euphoria of what was October 17, and the disarray and tragedy of everything that's been happening the last nearly 3 years. Within that story, there's a youth-led movement, there's a woman-led movement, there's a reclamation of history, or at least an attempt. There's a lot of citizen journalism. I mean, activists that became journalists, and some of them have pursued journalism as a career. There's a lot of citizens that wanted to enter politics, and I think it's not necessarily education, but there's an educational component to this story. Lebanese are learning what it feels like to be a citizen and what it should feel like to be in a functioning state. I think these were happening on the ground. And Beit Beirut is almost like it's watching. Sort of something that's been stagnant, come back to life, and then goes back to stagnancy. So if you can project your own, let's say, relationship to this building and to Lebanon moving forward, you have an NGO, you have an exhibit that started 12 years ago, and now it's phase 3. Do you see this as maybe a positive end to this story, that what you're doing is planting seeds for the next generation? Do you think that you will actually experience something positive happening within our lifetime? And this is really trying to persuade me to not see things as bleak as I think they are, because it's good effort, like what you're doing, that I think motivates people to keep trying. But I can always think of motivation as a permanent activity while things continue to fail. So maybe your own personal relationship to this project, to Lebanon, and how you see things moving forward. I'll start with you.
Oh, it's a pity I would start with you. No, but for
We'll start with
example,
Tala. A gift for you.
thank you.
You're welcome. I accept
Why are
donations.
you a pessimist?
Why? After Samir Asir was killed in 2005, I was inspired by somebody who was young and humble and academic, mostly, political in his last weeks. I was inspired by somebody like him, because that for me was the turning point, that we're going to learn.
Yeah.
And this will never happen again. I was wrong. That's 2005. The last 17 years, many people that I thought were trying to do the right thing, like him, but from all sectors, not just politics, not just protests. And back then, it's 17 years ago. It was a different time. But too many of those kinds of people that really loved Beirut and loved what it stood for, they're gone. And they're not gone because of heart attacks or car crashes. And that for me means the violence of the civil war is still with us. It's just not a civil war. But there is political violence in the background of Beirut. And you fast forward, August 4, 2020. I mean, the whole city experienced the most devastating. It's the largest non-nuclear blast in modern history. It happened a few kilometers from here. I mean, again, I say it, my apartment in Marum Khayel is sort of in disarray still, 2 years later. I'm pessimistic because in the last 17 years, that's longer than the Civil War itself. The state has eroded further. Social unrest has increased. Anxiety is a mainstay. And we're now living through, I think, the hardest chapter of modern history, 32 years after the Civil War ended. Now that's twice as long as the war itself. And the older generation that knew Lebanon before the war, they're fading with age. They're fading. So I'm pessimistic because of my own life in this country. And it's a rare occasion for me not to bring up a very personal moment, but he's right there behind us. I lost my father for reasons that I think are part of that Civil War-like legacy. Political violence stays with us. But that's not discounting everyone's sincere effort. And some of these people you get to know personally. I don't know if you know with the NGO. Monica Bergman, to me, is one of those examples. Somebody who keeps trying. But that, for me, is the story. You keep trying. And then, in our lifetime, we've seen Lebanon fail. So that's the background I live in. History tours, political tours, collective memory tours. I did that for 15 years. And I know that no matter what you do and say in Lebanon, no matter how hard you try to engage an audience, to rethink this country, there's a reality that's much bigger, and it doesn't tolerate initiatives.
If I can just say one thing
Yes, ma'am.
about your experience is that you said like one example is and what she's doing, and that's amazing. Another great example is you as well. You are doing this podcast because also you still have deep inside you a mission, and you still have faith in whatever mission or vision you have. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring, everyone is doing something small. And we want to support them in this mission they have. And you have a big mission, because this is a platform for a lot of activists, but you are one of them. And you have to remember that. So don't, everyone around me tells me that you are always so optimistic, and how do you believe in change? This is not possible. Yes, sometimes I do want to like, grrr, definitely. But if you see the change that you can make in everyone's life, like this tiny bit, and how they can be this person A and then they can become person B, and like one talk, one discussion, they can change so many things. You will say, I want to do this every single day of my life. And you feel that this is your mission, and I feel it every single day in my life. And it is
So
a daily fight. It's a mission.
It's a mission irrespective of where things move.
It's a mission.
Yeah.
It's a mission to sustain. It's a mission to keep believing that you can do.
Yes.
Definitely, we did many projects that failed,
Yeah.
miserably failed, but it's okay, because it's part of the history as well. And 10 years from now or 20 years from now, we will say that we tried and we did and we achieved and we failed. And it's part of accepting that you failed, but you need to continue, and you continue and continue. And this is why we are here. And you said, Delphine, yeah, you did a good job. She didn't do a good job. This is an amazing thing. Like this, everything that you see in the exhibition, every single pen or anything you saw in this exhibition, took a lot of effort to create. In this country that is so difficult to live in today, we are still here and we are still fighting to do this. So this is why people coming in, they are crying, not because of the exhibition, because they can't believe that some people can still do this in Lebanon. This is huge.
That's well said.
Yeah.
You know, I could use more of these words in life, because I can tell also that there's an amount of stress that's very difficult to deal with, and you're still saying the right thing. And you're saying it with I think, a lens that's accurate. There's a mission. And I appreciate the way you focused in on that.
Definitely.
I don't hear that much nuance and sort of optimism, but carefully constructed optimism. Since
Well,
you gave Tala the floor,
I'm
now
not sure
it's
it's
your
useful for me to say anything after that, but if you, I know, it's true that each fight to win it is so complicated and so harsh. But after, it's true what you did. I know you don't know what will be tomorrow. The seeds. I like what you said about the seeds, because for me the revolution, even everything we experienced the last 2 years, for me there is like a change. Even when you are talking about this Dolce Vita, and now it's changed because of the revolution, and they bring like a new context and concept. So for me, there's or even the idea just to go to protest. And 2 years ago, and before the revolution, it was not like 3 years ago. It was not like that. And people was not like fighting on the street. And
But they were. That's where I live. In my mind, you go back 17 years ago, people were protesting.
the activists, and people like you, and also like people who were directly involved in the decrease of life and everything. But
Yeah.
of course, there was like you think and way before and
Yeah.
2000 and 2005. I was not there 2005, but when we come back to the in Lebanon, it's like that. I feel that after the revolution, this is a bit less. Like the new generation know that they can maybe change something on the street. Before, I'm not so sure.
So you think there's an actual an end with October 17th, that there's something new being built, regardless of what's happened
Yeah,
the
yeah,
last 3
sure.
years.
For me, it's sure in the mentality.
Yeah.
It's maybe we don't do it. We are not on the street, but we know we can go.
I used to think this way in the months after October 17, and I think I stopped thinking that way. But it's good to hear it from you as well. And I mean, you need to have a healthy amount of optimism to function in this country anyway.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask you both, we'll wrap it up with this. For somebody that hasn't been to this exhibit, but is in Lebanon right now, can you in a way sell it to somebody who's driving past Sodeko or walking and they see it and it's open? A way that would maybe persuade somebody to walk in and explore Beirut's layered history. I'll start with you, Tala.
Thank you.
That was just for you, because I now know from your eye communication. It's like go over there. But ending with you.
I can start if you want.
Yes, please.
I mean, it's a sensory journey. We thought that like really as immersive, interactive as you will be the actor of your visit, and it's not a classical exhibition. And so yeah, you need to come because you will discover Beirut through ages. You will start with Beirut of today. You will learn more about the story of Beit Beirut, and then we will go back physically into the 50s, 60s, 70s to discover how was life before, but through a more complex portrait, economic and cultural portrait.
So sensory experience.
Yeah.
I like that. What about you, Tala?
Curiosity. Some people do not know this building. I mean, they pass it every day, next to it every day. You have to know this building. You have to know its history. Now you have the chance to visit. You have the chance to go into this journey that you will learn a lot. And avid learners, curious people will definitely enjoy this experience. And the whole idea is to create a space for people to come together and start this reconciliation, this peace that we're looking for. This is the right place if you want to start the process and meet other people that are different than you. You will meet them in this specific space.
For me, it's letting Beirut speak on its terms in a very, very eloquent way. You guys have done something terrific. It's hard to impress me with anything when it comes to new ideas in Beirut. The moment I walked in, I felt like this place is finally being used the way it should be used. It's not Mun al-Halla alone trying to do a little tour for somebody who's walking in and she does her best. It's not that. She shouldn't struggle that way. There should be a collective of people working together. And I appreciate what you said, Tata. People should work together on these things. It pays off. So it's embedded in the website, donations, and I hope it survives beyond 3 months. It deserves to survive at least a year. I'll be going back.
Wow.
Oh, I'll keep going back. It's not because I'm partial to Muhammad Tame. It's really, it has
You will
nothing
be
to do.
partial to us now.
And now I'm partial to you guys. Yeah. And the fact is, the opening was magic. The dance, the music, everything. You guys did it in such a way that, yeah, the city can fall apart, Lebanon can fall apart, but something beautiful persists. So, thank you, Delphine. Thank you, Tala.
Thank you, Ron.
That's what you were I mean, what you was talking about the. No, because of course I can speak.
That should be the new one. Oh. Thanks for listening and watching, and a friendly reminder to support this podcast by contributing through Patreon or PayPal. All links are in the details box. Until next time, I'm Rani Shatah, and this is the Beirut Banyan.